Hi, and welcome. We are going to talk about transitioning from adolescent to adulthood tonight. We are looking at Transition Survival 101. Specifically, we're going to look at what you need to do in order to start the transition plan process, meaning how and when to create a good transition plan for your students. My name is Michelle LaMarche. I'm a behavior analyst, and I am with Special Learning and Step by Step Academy. We are specialists in serving the autism population from ages 2 all the way into adulthood. This is a really personal topic for me because as I've been in the field for many years now, about 16 years, I find that my kids just keep getting older and they still need help and services, and I'm finding really in my own practice over the last several years that finding the right plan, creating it, knowing what services are out there, knowing the laws and all of those variables that impact my ability as well as the community's ability to fit our kids who now are adults into the community well, it's a really tough system to navigate. So I'm very excited to talk about the things that we've learned in our practice over the years, as well as some of the information that's out there already for your review. So let's get started. I love this section in particular. This is absolutely one of my favorite books. So if you get a chance, take a look at the notation at the bottom. The reference is for autism and the transition to adulthood. It's called Success Beyond the Classroom. Absolutely one of the items you must have in your library if you are a provider and or a parent or even an individual with autism and you're learning how to navigate the adult world or preparing to do so. In this section, they did talk about how in IDEA, students that are diagnosed with autism, once you turn 22, you no longer have the same rights or entitlements that you had when you were younger. Specifically, they're talking about here, you no longer have a legal right to appropriate transition services such as life skills training, transportation, vocational training, and individual and family counseling. In our practice, we know that the education department becomes responsible or a responsible party for treatment and education for people with autism once they are the age of 3. We know also that when you're 18, technically by law, you are an adult. Therefore, you have to remember, and we'll talk about this in detail as we go, that 18 is going to be one of those milestones that we need to make sure we're preparing for, because that will affect the services and resources that you may have access to. Now, you can also choose to continue your education services until you're 22, assuming that both the parent, the individual, as well as the school district feel that that's appropriate to continue IEP services. But once you have your 22nd birthday, then a whole new world comes. So today's objectives, once we complete, I'm hoping that you'll be able to, number 1, identify potential barriers that individuals may face as they become adults. Number 2, identify resources that may assist adolescents and adults with successful transition. And number 3, understand what data and information is needed to create an effective transition plan. Briefly, we want to make sure that we're reviewing autism spectrum disorders and what they are really diagnosed as in terms of their needs and restrictions. Obviously, I think if you're already talking about transition, you're very familiar with autism and Asperger's as well as PDD-NOS, but we're looking at the qualitative impairment in social interaction, communication, and then restricted, repetitive, and stereotyped patterns of behavior, interests and activities when you're talking about autism. It's the same for Asperger's, except for we don't have the concerns about communication in the same way that we do for autism. The reason I bring this up is because there are very specific changes that are taking place when you talk about ASDs and adolescent children. When you're in adolescence, the research does tell us that this is a high-risk period for additional emergencies or serious mental disorders to be added to the diagnosis of autism, including profound psychological, physiological, and social changes during adolescence, as well as the rates of mental health problems then increase during this period of time.